You know what the best part about break is that you have some time to sit down and do some doodling, get some fresh ideas out of your brain, and do some experimentation, play around with the sketchbook again. It's just nice to get back to that. Hey class, Mr. G here. Today we're going to be talking about 3 tips for improving your sketchbook game. So these are 3 tips that I use pushing out to my students, pushing out to you guys that help me create better and create a better sketchbook experience. Okay, so I want to start off today's class and talk about sketchbooks for a quick second. We're coming into the long winter break for us here in the States. So while you have that time off and you have a few minutes of just free time to let your brain decompress and throw something down in a sketch pad, use that time to try and experiment, try and get some new ideas out there. This is just 3 quick tips that I have for creating some better stuff. So starting us off, I wanted to talk about line. So the way that we use line, how we express with line, isn't just by putting a single line down on a piece of paper. You want to express that line by giving variances of the line. So the line needs to have thick points, thin points, there needs to be breaks, dashes. The line needs to jump around over the page so that you can work with that material in a different way. Now let's real quickly talk about those 4 different ways that we apply value and we apply different shading techniques. Your basic ones is hatching, cross hatching, stippling, and blending. Now with pen you can blend, but you need to do it in a liquid ink form. So I'm using brush ink and applying that to my paper, and as I'm applying it I can add more water to change the level of the ink that's being applied to the paper, and that's giving me those grays, those different tonal ranges. You can also use different colored inks, which I love doing. It's one of my things. I've been doing it for a couple of years now, where I like playing around with ink and the way the ink moves. Inktober was a blast this year. If you want to check out some of my previous videos, I think I have an Inktober playlist. I'll try and put the card in there for you guys. When creating with ink, it is a fluid medium, so you do need to be aware that things will run, things will bleed, and things will not have a definitive line like if you're just using a ballpoint pen or a pencil. So going in with a little bit of that knowledge kind of changes the line quality, but also makes you adapt to how the line is forming on the paper. Now transitioning from the line into color, now as I said before, I use colored inks. We're going to be using colored inks on this design as well, and notice how as we're adding those colors, adding those building up those around the lines, we're changing the different values of the color that we're applying. Now with these colored inks that I'm using, I'm going to be applying water to give levels of gradients to my ink so that I have a light, a medium, and a dark. But also we have colored pencils, kind of like these colored pencils. Now Prismacolors, they're expensive, so if you have the coin to go buy some of those, by all means do, because I do recommend them. This isn't sponsorship, but these are really good color pencils. But if you need to just buy the plain old Crayolas, as long as you get a good 16 plus pack, you definitely want to have multiple colors within one hue. What I mean by that, if we're looking at the yellows to the oranges, your yellow comes in 4 different variances of in these colored pencils. So we have these 4 different colors, so that's going to go ahead and give me a little bit of variation, a little bit of change in the way that we see the colors, so that you can see those lights, mediums, and darks. That's what we want to see in those variants. As light transfers over an image, kind of like how I got the light set up in here today, where I have a stark light coming in on this side of my face, this side of my face is in shadow. How does that shade travel across a round object, a round surface, or a multiple planes on your surface? As that light transfers over, we want to be able to capture that inside of our sketchbook, so that when we transfer that to a larger piece, such as a painting or a large scale drawing or a photograph, we're taking and we're understanding how that color blends across the different spaces. This helps you create and work as a better artist, because you're understanding how light and color work together to create much more depth, much more emphasis in your character and what you're trying to create. Try to make these back in the right order that I took them out in, otherwise I'm going to look at it and go nuts. There we go. Finally, we want to talk about shapes and objects. Grab one of my little micro cars. As you're drawing different objects and different shapes, break it down to those simplistic elements first. As you're drawing, we're looking at a car. What's the car shape? The car shape is a rectangular prism. That's the basic elements. From there, we'll cut away different sections of the rectangular prism where we have the front hood, we have the front windshield, and we have the back windshield. So we're starting to sculpt out those different levels. This also is a good building technique if you're doing a lot of 3D work, because if you're doing 3D sculpture, you need to be able to understand subtractive and additional elements where you're adding bits of clay, bits of metal, wood, plaster, whatever you're adding to the piece to create those different objects. How do you add stuff to it, and also how do you take stuff away cleanly so that you have nice fluid lines inside of your structure? Now, as you're starting to create those designs, break down again those basic shapes, those basic elements. So like the windows themselves. Windows are also rectangular shapes, except for the back windows, because this is a fastback car, which means it's got this nice pitched rear where it just kind of slopes down really quickly from the top of the car down the back windshield. It creates that triangular shape. Isosceles triangles for our math people. We're getting those basic shapes. So as long as you can draw a square, a triangle, and a circle, you can draw anything. It's just how do you apply that knowledge to your illustrations. All right, guys, I hope that you got something fantastic out of this quick tutorial that we were going over with. Take out your sketchbook, throw down some designs in there. Again, work with those basic 3 things, which is work on your line quality, color adaptation through value. How are we adding value into our image? And finally, shape. How are you guys using those 3 basic shapes? Again, a square, a triangle, and a circle to build everything that you ever wanted to draw. Use those things to help build your sketchbook designs out so that your artwork becomes a much more fluid structure. All right, so let's go ahead and close out the class today. Let's take care of our homework, which is like, subscribe, share on all the various platforms. So if you see something cool that you liked here and you have some friends who could also learn from it, share that video right there along with them so that we can all learn together. If you have a question, comment, or concern, don't forget to raise your hand down in the comments below. Happy to answer my questions from my classmates. As always, I will see you guys next class. This might be the last video of 2019. Look forward to seeing you guys' comments, and as always, I will see you guys next class. Later, guys.